What's up, guys? Kamikaze Fox coming to you from SRL Round 21, Interlagos, Brazil, F1 2018 on the PS4 platform, and this is the final round of the SRL season, and this one is for all the marbles, guys. A championship that started way back in September is going to come down to literally the last race, which is today between two drivers, Nick Van Gelder and Francis McGinn, and it has been an epic battle heading into this weekend and recapping last week's race, which was pretty unbelievable. Sandro Julius actually came home with his second win of the season. It was his 9th career win. He picked it up at Suzuka. Vasilios picked up his 4th pole position leading into the race, but unfortunately Vasilios would crash out, picking up his 5th DNF of the year. Sam Van Elven continues to improve upon his speed, came home 2nd last week, and Francis McGinn, trying to keep his championship hopes alive, came home 10th. Nick Van Gelder, unfortunately, came home 6th, lost a little bit of ground in those championship points. Had a collision with Louis Quinlan during qualifying, which subsequently has cost Quinlan a qualifying ban for today's race. And Nick coming home 6th. And to run down the driver lineup as we wait for a few guys to join in, we've got Azira873, which I believe that's Foons Van Houten. Then we have Sandro Julius, Vasilios Belasiotis, Louis Quinlan, Sam Van Elven, Reese March, Dion Stahl, Nick Van Gelder, Francis McGinn, Ivan Brito, Samuel Brandt, Cameron Weston Edwards, and myself so far, rounding out 12 drivers, 1 commentator. And as I said, this has been a very, very exciting year. Francis McGinn came off a really good season last year with McLaren, where he finished 2nd in the points, I believe, to his teammate Killian Brady, who walked away with the championship. Actually, it was Barca Delta. Francis McGinn, I think, came home 2nd or 3rd in points. Killian Brady was his teammate, but Brady dived out mid-season, and Barca Delta took home the championship. But this started way back at round 1 in Germany, where Vasilios Belasiotis came home with a pole and walked away with his first win. Nick Van Gelder came home 3rd that round, but there was no Francis McGinn to be seen that day. He had missed round 1, and then going into round 2, Austria, Francis McGinn picked up his first pole position of the year. Nick Van Gelder picked up his 2nd podium in a row. Francis came home 5th. And the big names this year have been Francis McGinn, Vasilios Belasiotis, and Nick Van Gelder. And heading into round 3, McGinn again with a pole position. This time he finally took home a win. Van Gelder came home 2nd that day. Jesper Lampinen picked up his 2nd podium of the year. But Vasilios Belasiotis picked up his 2nd DNF in a row, which kind of hurt him in the championship points at the time. Round 4 came along in Bahrain, and again, McGinn on top. Came home with the pole position, his 3rd one. Francis McGinn then came home 3rd that race. Van Gelder was 5th. And Belasiotis was nowhere to be seen that day. And round 5 came along. Francis McGinn had picked up his 4th pole. It was his 2nd win of the year, and his teammate finally came home with his 2nd podium of the year. And meanwhile, we were still having Lewis Marshall in the league. That was Marshall's 4th podium finish of the season, and he was actually your championship points leader up to Abu Dhabi. But unfortunately, what had happened between him and Sandro Julius that round, and afterwards, Lewis Marshall was decided to leave the league. Nick Van Gelder, though, had finished 14th that race in round 5, picking up his first DNF, and then round 6 was Australia, which was a really exciting race. Bart Catalda came back, picked up where he left off. He had won the race. McGinn had picked up his 5th pole position. Vasilios Belasiotis, back-to-back podiums, finishing 3rd. Van Gelder was 4th. And Sandro Julius was finally finding some speed as of round 6. He came home 5th. It was actually, up to that point, that was his best finish of the season. He started off slow, but has been coming home strong. Francis McGinn picked up his first DNF in round 6 in Australia, though, coming home in 12th. Moving into Singapore, it was all Bart Catalda during qualifying as he picked up the pole, but Sandro Julius drove an exceptional race, controlled the tire heat and degradation really well to pick up his first win in more than 2 years. Vasilios Belasiotis came home 2nd with his 4th podium. Van Gelder came home 3rd with his 4th podium of the year. And that was at round 7, and that was a big win for Sandro Julius. Again, that was his first one in more than 2 years since season 2, and really started to put himself into some championship contention with the other drivers. And that was at Singapore. Round 8 was China. which is actually one of my favorite tracks. Francis McGinn picking up another pole position. He led the league all year in poles, had 6 pole positions, came home with his 3rd win of the season. Barkatelda was still a part of the league at this point, had come home 2nd that day. And Rennie Vanderstapp picked up a much-needed podium. And Nick Van Gelder was actually the one that handed Rennie Vanderstapp that podium because of time penalties. Nick Van Gelder actually came home 3rd that day, dropped to 4th because of time penalties. Sandro Dulius, in the meanwhile, came home 10th that race. Round 9 was Baku, which was a race of degradation. We started with 16 drivers at round 9, and only 7 of them finished. Luke Smith picked up the pole position, but Nick Van Gelder managed to stay out of trouble, came home with his 1st win of the season. Sandro came home with his 2nd place, and Cameron Weston-Edwards came home with a much-needed podium position for himself. It was his 1st one of the season. Meanwhile, drivers 8 through 16 all crashed out. That was Luke Smith, Sam Brandt, Efren Daniel, Ivan Brito, Jorge Correa, Dion Stahl, Colin Higgins, Sam Van Elven, and Vasilios Belasiotis. And then in round 10 was Spain. Rennie Vanderstapp took a shock pole from everybody. Unfortunately, he couldn't capitalize on it as he came home 3rd that day. Sandro managed to muster out 2nd place to keep himself in championship contention, but Vasilios Belasiotis picked up his 2nd win of the year. Meanwhile, Nick Van Gelder was nowhere to be found that race. And neither was Francis McGinn, came home 4th. And I don't think Nick participated in that race, so he lost some points that day. Round 11, it was at Paul Ricard. Francis McGinn and Vasilios Belasiotis went blow for blow, lap after lap, fighting for the win of that one. It was a really good race to watch between those two. Francis McGinn managed to take the win, while Vasilios picked up his 6th podium finish of the year, and Sandro picked up his 4th. Nick came home 6th that day, trying to keep himself in contention. And round 12 was Monaco. That was an interesting race for sure. Another race of degradation. Started with 15 drivers, only 9 of them finished. Vasilios picked up his 3rd win of the year, while Francis came home with his 7th pole position. Nick Van Gelder came home 2nd, and Rennie Vanderstapp picked up his 3rd podium of the year. That was keeping Rennie in the running for the championship for a long time. That was round 12 at Monaco. Moving forward into round 13, as we finally get ready to kick off here for this short qualifying. Round 13 was Hungary, where Harry Ryan was a newcomer to SRL, picked up his 1st pole position of the season. And we haven't seen much of Harry since then. But Francis McGinn was able to pick up his 5th win as his teammate Vasilios came home 2nd. Harry Ryan did come home 3rd that race. Nick Van Gelder was 4th. Sandro Dulius was involved in a massive wreck on the opening lap between him and Louis Quinlan and Jorge Correa. So round 14 at Belgium. That was a really interesting race in the wet. Sandro tried to gamble on dries in the slick conditions and wasn't able to make it work, but Francis McGinn came home with the pole position and the win. Nick Van Gelder came home 2nd. Sandro came home with his 5th podium of the year, coming home in 3rd. So he tried to capitalize on dries in the wets, but ultimately Francis McGinn was able to muster it out. And in round 15 at Monza, Vasilios led from pole position, taking home his 4th win of the year. Van Gelder came home in 2nd. Rennie Vanderstapp was 3rd. That was his 4th podium of the year. And again, Sandro was called out in a massive wreck. So that would really hurt his championship chances. And Silverstone is where Nick Van Gelder really shined, as we got sunshine today here at Interlagos. But it was wet and damp at Silverstone. Francis McGinn had his 9th pole position of the year, but Van Gelder managed to take home the win in the wet. It was his 2nd win. McGinn came home in 2nd. Sandro was 3rd. Meanwhile, Vasilios had crashed out for the 4th time of the season, as we do see a couple of drivers getting ready to leave. Round 17 was Canada. Vasilios Belasiotis picked up his 3rd pole position of the year and his 5th win. McGinn came home in 2nd. And Sandro Dulius was 3rd. Nick Van Gelder came home in 6th that race. In round 18, it was all Force India again. As we see some of the cars finally leaving the paddock, we've got R3D. This is Louis Quinlan, who is actually on a qualifying ban, so he can still run out laps, but he cannot set a time. That will ultimately cost him. We'll see if he abides by that here in the last round. We'll pick up Cameron Weston-Edwards on his outlap. Coda was an interesting race, though. McGinn picked up his 10th pole of the year, but Vasilios came home with the win. Sandro was 2nd. Nick Van Gelder was 3rd. Francis McGinn had crashed out. It was his third DNF of the year, and then Mexico was a great race for Nick Van Gelder. Managed to come home third. Compliments of Sam Van Elven. Sam Van Elven actually crossed the line first at round 19 in Mexico, but unfortunately, due to 15 seconds worth of time penalties, he dropped from first to third. So he handed the win over to Nick Van Gelder. Sandro Julius came home with his 8th podium of the year, and Sam Van Elven did pick up his first pole position that day and his first podium of the year. And then last week at Suzuka, we already talked about it a little bit, Vasilios picking up his 4th pole position of the season, but Sandro came home with the win. Sam Van Elven was second. Francis McGinn came home third to keep his championships hopes alive. So really, the scenario is between McGinn and Van Gelder. Everybody else is pretty much racing for pride at this point, and there's a few scenarios that could play out during this race. Now, if you take into consideration the bonus points that drivers get for fastest lap and pole position here in SRL, there's only an 18-point spread between Nick Van Gelder and Francis McGinn. Now, if Fran wins the race and has pole position and fastest lap, Nick would need to finish 5th or better in the race. And if Fran finishes 2nd, then Nick would have to finish 9th or better. And if he finishes 3rd, it won't matter where Nick comes home. He won't get enough points. Now, if there's no pole position or fastest lap given to Francis McGinn, who has proven this year that he is the fastest driver out there, if Fran doesn't get fastest lap or pole position and gets the win, Nick will need to finish 6th or better. So really, it all comes down to those two. We've got a lot of people chiming in on the live chat as I was going over the season recap, and we see Cameron Weston Edwards set the first time of the session, 1:08.884, followed by Reese March, 1:09.323. Pick up Vasilios just on his out lap. We got a lot of guys chiming in on the live chat. Got a lot of guys supporting Nick Van Gelder. Seems to be the championship favorite currently. Vasilios trying to put some heat into his tires. Looks like Foons Van Houten's going 1:09.136. And look at this, Nick Van Gelder to the top of the charts. 1:07.716. He comes out swinging. We'll see if Vasilios has anything for him, as Vasilios is going to start a hot lap now, all the way down the wall. Through the 1-2 complex. Nice to be here at Interlagos, a proper F1 track, one of my favorite tracks. Unfortunately, I think I heard a rumor, and I'm sure somebody can confirm this rumor, but I don't think it's on the F1 calendar for next year, which is a real shame. I think they're replacing it with Vietnam. That is going to be a pooper of a race. On board with Vasilios. Sector 2 on Interlagos is probably your best chance and also your worst chance to either make up time or lose time. You got to hit those corners right in the middle sector. Oh, and look at this. He gets called out. Oh, and he hits one of the Haas's. Oh, my. And it comes back across and runs into him, and that's going to end Vasilios' qualifying session. Unbelievable. And I'm not sure which Haas that is, but he is able to continue. I would imagine that could be Reese March. Nope, he is in the pits, so that would be Sam Brandt. That was a really unfortunate turn of events. So Vasilios is out, and he just caught lap traffic way too quick. And I don't think there was anywhere for Sam to go. Vasilios went wide trying to dodge another lap car, lost the back end, came back across the track, hit Sam Brandt. Brandt goes flying through the grass and comes back across the track and hits him. Meanwhile, while all that was happening, Dion Stahl went second quickest with a 1:08.398. Ivan Burrito with a good time, 1:08.683. Third quickest. And so we've got Tim Hoffnagel joining us today as well. Hoffnagel coming off of unfortunately crashed out. It was a racing incident deemed by the stewards 3 cars going into turn 1 at Suzuka, and it just didn't pan out for Louis Quinlan and Tim Hoffnagel, and it looks like we may have lost in the pits Louis Quinlan. So Hoffnagel hasn't raced a full schedule this year. He came in a few rounds ago, but he's proven to be pretty quick so far this year in the few rounds that he's run. Still looking for that maiden win. Oh, and he's on the grass and drops the right sides into it and takes out the sign. That's definitely going to cost him some time as he runs up the hill. See if he's going to try and complete this lap or if he's going to dive into the pits. Tries to get him close to that white line. He's going to come across the line. 107.503 for Tim Hoffnagel. And had he not been in the grass and taken out that sign, he would have gone even faster. Meanwhile, Francis McGinn, we missed it, 107.515. So there's 3 drivers so far in the 107 range. Tim Hoffnagel taking provisional pole, and Francis McGinn running second. Nick Van Gelder is in third. Got a caution in sector 2. Sandro Dulius goes 107.785. Now we've got 4 drivers in the 107 range. 2 of them are championship contenders. Sandro's hopes were slightly dashed, even though he came home with a miracle win at round 20 at Suzuka. Wasn't enough to keep him in contention. Vasilios is pleading his case on the live chat, as we can see. Pick up Nick Van Gelder out in sector 2. Looks like he might be on a hot lap. 9 minutes left to play in this session. There's a caution in sectors 1 and 2, and now 2 and 3. 107.435 to the top of the charts. Nick Van Gelder. We pick up Francis McGinn. Francis is going to start a hot lap. Now we're going to ride on board with him. Big lock up there on the left front. Tries to keep it tight. It's a good run coming out of turn 2. Down the straightaway in the DRS range, kicks it into high gear. Oh, that's going to possibly invalidate that time. A lot of guys go 4 off there. That's a really hard corner. This is now sector 2. Got a caution in sector 2. Puffs of smoke coming out of the right front as he's hard on those brakes. Last couple of corners here down the hill. This is where Vasilios went off and had his contact with Sam Brandt. Lock up on the left front. Francis is really working those brakes. Van Gelder heads into the pits. This is going to be close for Francis. 107.376. Francis McGinn says, I'm not done with this just yet, and goes even quicker than Van Gelder. Cameron Weston Edwards, in the meantime, has managed to go 107.797. And Sam Van Elven has just retired from the session. I am not sure what happened to him. Unfortunately, Sam Van Elven, 110.604. He'll be starting near the back of the pack. And it looks like Sam Van Elven has left the session. So I wonder if Sam Van Elden will be able to get back into the race. Not even sure if he meant to leave. He ride along with Sandro Dulius. Good exit coming out of the left-hander at the end of the back stretch. Up the hill now. Sectors of 2 and 3 have cautions. Sandro entering the sector 2 now. These corners here, the right, left, right, left. This is where all the time can be made or lost on this track. Very critical corners here. Up the hill one last time. I don't think he's going to have the time. He is off the pace. He's going to head into pits. But Tim Hoffnagel, we just picked him up 107.333. Unbelievable time for him, and he goes so quick that he slides the car heading into turn 1. So Hoffnagel, provisional pole sitter right now with 5:23 left to play in the session. Things are starting to heat up for some of these drivers. Sam Brandt, meantime, after being hit by Vasilius, has managed to go 6th quickest. So good for Sam. Francis McGinn, 107.131. Even quicker. Francis McGinn has come to play. He wants that championship. He is going for that bonus point. And he's going to have his work cut out for him. I really feel like Van Gelder is going to have to go on the defensive today and just try and stay out of trouble and get that good mid-pack finish that he's going to need. Remember, if Fran wins the race, has the fastest lap and pole position, Nick only needs to finish 5th or better. Anything less than that is going to cost him the championship. Sam Brandt heading into the pits. Foons Van Houten now has gone 6th quickest, 107.999. He's the 6th driver to crack into the 107s. But with Fran running a 107.131, it begs the question, is there any driver that is going to be able to crack into the 106s? And if I had to take a guess right now, I would say Fran is going to have the best shot at doing that. They pick up Dion Stahl, currently 9th quickest. Dion actually had a relatively good season this year. He started off really strong. He actually had a couple of podiums. He's losing control here. I don't know if he had a couple of podiums. I think he had one podium, but he did start off strong this year. Really good mid-pack finishes. And for the first few rounds, he was the A driver at Ferrari. So Sandro Dulius finally got his act together and started finding his speed again. Pick up Ivan Brito in the Williams. And again, Ivan, another driver who's a little quieter earlier this year, had a few DNFs, but the last few races he's really been able to put them together, put some points on the board for the Williams team, and hopefully he'll be able to come back next year even stronger. So 2:43 left to play. Ivan Brito is going to come across the line. 107.918, good enough for 6th. So another driver that is cracking the 107s. Yeah, Cameron Wilson-Edwards is coming out on his out lap. Looks like he's going to be the first of the heavy hitters to head back out on track. So we'll try to keep tabs on all these drivers as we head down to the last 2 minutes here. 2-minute warning. Who's going to bring out the last-ditch effort and try and take that pole position away from Francis McGinn? Tim Hoffnagel's proved to be really quick at this track so far. He's been fighting for that pole all day. Nick Van Gelder obviously wants it to try and keep Francis McGinn behind him as much as possible. So here we go. Cameron Western Edwards Last qualifying lap of the season. He comes across the line. He does come across the line with enough time to do a second lap if he wanted to. The caution in sector 2. Not the greatest exit for Edwards coming out of turn 2 down the backstretch. Looks like McGinn's on his out lap. And Tim Hofnagel, I don't know if he crashed out or just called it a day, but he is done. Time locked in at a 107.333. Currently second quickest. Van Gelder has just left the pits for his out lap. We continue to ride along with Cameron Weston Edwards as he heads into the sector 2 area. Cam trying to get that power down. You hear him hit that throttle. On, off, coasting to the next corner. A little bit of snap oversteer. You see him working the steering wheel. A little wide there. Heavy into the corner there. Gets the power down. And now the run to the finish as he heads up the hill. Here comes Cameron Weston Edwards. 107.685. That does improve his position up to 4th. It looks like he may call it a day there. We're going to pick up Francis McGinn now. McGinn is on. He's on his hot lap. He's in sector 2. Heads up the hill. And Ivan Brito is retired from the session. He's locked in at a 107.918. Time is expired. Hot laps will count. Sandro calls it a day, locks his time in at a 107.433. Sam Brandt's done. Louis Quinlan observing his qualifying band. No time set. Will start 12th in front of Vasilios Pelisievich. There's a car in the middle of the track. And McGinn's going to come across the line. 107.080. He goes to the top of the charts. Van Gelder, we're going to pick him up. Unbelievable time set by Francis McGinn with a car sitting in the middle of the front stretch. Shades of Mark Webber and Fernando Alonso here in Interlagos. That could have been disastrous. Van Gelder's going to come across the line. Not quick enough. Francis McGinn is going to take pole. Nick Van Gelder comes home 4th quickest. Not what he wanted, not what he needed. Got Jure Marusic on the live chat as well. Good to see him joining us. Nick Van Gelder, Crispy Dex. Vasilios is in there. Van Gelder chiming in. So here's your starting lineup. This is Francis McGinn, Tim Hofnagel, Sandro Doyes, Nick Van Gelder, Cameron Weston Edwards, Ivan Brito, Funes Van Houten, Samuel Brandt, Deion Stahl, Reese March, Sam Van Alven, Louis Quinlan, and Vasilios Belisiotis, who crashed out in that unbelievable wreck on his opening hot lap. So this is it, folks. This is for all the marbles. This is going to make or break somebody's whole season. Does Van Gelder walk away with the Cinderella story, or does he get sandblasted at the very end like Felipe Massa did here at Interlagos when Lewis Hamilton stole that championship out from underneath of him, no thanks to Timo Glock and his botched call on wet tires. Interlagos, so much history here. This is just such a good track for Formula One. It's a shame that they're taking it off of the calendar. As we wait for the game to load. Feel free to check us out online. Looks like we've got red lights, green light. This is going to be your formation lap. So Francis McGinn picking up an unprecedented 11th pole position of the year. Tim Hofnagel will be starting 2nd, and he'll be looking to try and get his maiden win in. Sandro Dulius could be the spoiler in today's race. He's had a really strong season so far. See if maybe he can pick up his 3rd win of the year. Nick Van Gelder He's going to have to go on the defensive, I think, and just try and maintain his spot. Cameron Weston Edwards is going to want to finish off strong. He struggled at the beginning part of this year, was able to bring it together the last few races. Same can be said for Ivan Brito, who struggled in the early part of the season, but last few races has really put it together. Funes Van Houten was really fast in Mexico. Didn't get to walk away with the podium that he wanted, but still a good race nonetheless. And Sam Brandt, SRL Sam, has the ability to, I think, leapfrog Renault in the points, as long as him and Maurice March get some good points on the board. Dion Stahl starting in 9th, and Maurice March will be starting in 10th, again in the Haas. Sam Van Elven looks like he is not with us. His car is classified, but I cannot select him. He is done with the session. Louis Quinlan will be trying to work his way into the points. He's struggled a little bit this year. And Vasilios Veliciotis, coming off of that crazy qualifying crash. Vasilios is going to be racing for pride. He's very quick, and he is definitely going to want to try and work his way through the field. And I got a feeling Vasilios is going to want that win. So it'll be interesting to see where he is able to end up, and if he becomes a factor in today's outcome. But as I was saying, check us out online. The link to the website is in the description here below in the video. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment to the YouTube channel as well as the grid resets. Waiting on 5 red lights. Once they're out, it'll be time to run what you brung. They leave in a puff of smoke. Good start by Tim Hoffnagel all the way down to the wall. Francis tries to run him down. Hoffnagel to the inside, takes away the lead, and it looks like Nick Van Gelder is already struggling. He's fallen back a spot. Meanwhile, Sandro is moving in 3rd, and they're side by side as Francis McGinn and Tim Hoffnagel as they head down to the backstretch. McGinn's going to be able to take away that spot. Oh, but it gets wide. Van Gelder running in 5th. Oh, and there's a car going off in the background. That was Funes Van Houten. He caught the grass, and he's done for the day. Into the wall. Meanwhile, Francis McGinn out front. Tim Hoffnagel running in 2nd. And Cameron Weston Edwards trying to make a move on Sandro Julius for the 3rd spot as he tries to go around the outside. Nick Van Gelder's right behind him. They bang wheels. And they are banging wheels as they head up the hill. They're off-track friends, but on-track rivals, as they like to say. And now it's 3 wide as they head down the front stretch. Van Gelder, with a very daring move, tries to take away that 3rd spot. Oh, and he cuts right in front, and it's very close. Now Van Gelder is in danger of losing 2 more spots. He falls back to 6th. Meanwhile, Ivan Brito comes out on top through that with a 2-for-1 deal, moves into 4th. And again, Nick Van Gelder being overly aggressive, I think, as he tries to pick up another spot. Cameron Weston Edwards manages to get his way into 3rd. Sandro and Nick. Nick's on the inside of Sandro. He dives into the corner, gives him a little bump. He tries to get that inside line. It looks like he's going to be able to pick it up. So Nick Van Gelder back into 5th spot, which is where he needs to be right now. And a lot of action going on behind him. Vasilios Veliciotis, who started last, is up to 8th. And all the cars are very close together. The biggest gap right now is between 2nd and 3rd. That's Hoffnagel and Cameron Weston Edwards. It's only 2-second gap between them. Everybody else is covered with a blanket right now. DRS is going to be enabled. Continue to watch Nick Van Gelder. Sandro has fallen back to 6th. It looks like he's starting to lose a little bit of ground to Van Gelder. Van Gelder's going to have the DRS advantage. He's going to head down the backstretch to the inside of Ivan Brito. He's going to try and push him wide. He's going to make that pass. Oh, Van Gelder picks up 4th spot for a little bit of insurance over top of Francis McGinn's point totals. Meanwhile, Sandro Julius now getting to the inside, and he's going side by side with Ivan Brito. They swap positions going through the Sector 2 area. Vasilios Belasiotis now has gotten past Sam Brandt. Brandt has dropped to 8th. Meanwhile, Hofnagel has closed the gap to Francis McGinn as they head down the front stretch. DRS slot open for Hofnagel. And Hofnagel runs the fastest lap at a 1:10.384. Now, as the fuel burns off of these cars, we'll see that time drop. We expect lap times towards the end of this race to be in the 1:08 area, which would be very close to qualifying times for some of these drivers. Hofnagel now got the DRS slot open. Meanwhile, Sandro Dulius and Ivan Brito still going back and forth. Vasilios gets by him. So now it's Sandro Dulius for 5th. Vasilios is now 6th. Hofnagel unable to make that move on Francis McGinn. Meanwhile, Nick Van Elder is now caught the back end of Cameron Weston Edwards. And this should be interesting. Cameron is a really hard driver to get around. He has proven that he can make his car very wide and put it in some precarious positions to make other guys have to work really hard to get around. Now, whether or not he does that against Van Gelder for the championship, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how hard Cameron wants to make Nick work for that 3rd spot. Crispy Dex has said that Fran will push himself so hard he's going to run himself off the track, and that is a possibility as we hop on board with Nick Van Gelder. Now look at this, Cameron Weston Edwards puts that car right in the right spot. Side by side through turns 1 and 2, Van Gelder's going to have it. And look at this, Edwards had to cut the chicane. He's not going to give up the spot. No, and he makes Van Gelder dive to the inside. Oh, and they're still side by side as they head into the backstretch at the end of the corner. Cameron gets pushed very wide. Cameron's probably not going to like that too much. Nick needs to be careful. That is some pretty clean and hard racing. Vasilios now has managed to work his way into 5th. He has got by Sandro Dulius at this point. Dulius still within half a second range, so you've got 5th, 6th, and 7th. It's Vasilios, Sandro, and Ivan Brito. Meanwhile, McGinn is getting passed at the end of the front stretch by Tim Hofnagel. Hofnagel had the DRS advantage, and it looks like he got him going into turn 1. Francis now is going to have the DRS advantage. Can Francis get it back? And this is good news for Nick Van Gelder. He's currently running in 3rd. Nick needs all the insurance he can get right now. Working lap 6 of 36. And it has been a thriller so far. Puff of smoke out of the right front there for Francis. A little bit of a lockup. We saw him do that a lot in qualifying. You can hear the wheel spin as Francis tries to get that power down. He's going to have the DRS advantage as they head up to the top of the hill. Down the dogleg front stretch here. And McGinn to the inside again. Crossover move by Hofnagel. He's not going to be able to make it work. Going to try and get it coming out of turn 2 through the S's. But now Hofnagel's got the DRS as we look out the back of McGinn's car. Hofnagel to the outside, I should say. Oh, and they're side by side as they head through that corner there. Hofnagel still on the outside. Francis tries to push him wide. They're side by side. Tim's got the more preferred line. Francis still going to try and make that outside line work as they head through the top right-hander here. Good move by Tim Hofnagel. That move took 3 corners to make happen, but he made it stick finally. And a big lockup from Francis on that right front. That right front is going to start taking some abuse here. And it looks like Nick Van Gelder is actually starting to close in the gap on these two. So while these two have been going back and forth, Nick Van Gelder's been closing that gap. DRS slot open again for Francis McGinn. Cameron Weston Edwards heads into the pits, and you see Nick Van Gelder just coming into frame there. Fran looks like he's going to get a good run coming out of turn 2 there, and he's going to have a good run coming down this backstretch. Not close enough to make a move. And a 3-second stop and go penalty, it looked like, or a 3-second time penalty for Sam Brandt. Sam currently trying to work his way around Ivan Brito in this 3-car battle here. He's in the middle of a Williams sandwich. It's Ivan Brito, Sam Brandt, and Louis Quinlan, who's managed to work his way into 8th after starting in 12th from the qualifying ban from last week's incident. Oh, and Brandt looks like he's struggling a little bit. Meanwhile, we've got a battle materializing here at the front between championship contenders Francis McGinn and Nick Van Gelder. Tim Halfnagel is your leader, 0.7 of a second back from his Francis McGinn, who's currently second in the points. Your championship points leader is 0.7 of a second back from him. And look at this, Sam Brandt manages to get by the Williams of Ivan Brito, and Brito lost out on that deal because he lost 2 positions because Louis Quinlan got by him as well. And the top 3, you can see the smoke just coming off of the front tires of Francis McGinn. He's really putting the brake pressure down. Another lock up there on the right front. It's about the 3rd lap in a row that he's done that. And now Nick Van Gelder is there. He's going to be in DRS range. Big lock up there on the front there. And here comes Van Gelder. Gets a little squirrely coming over there. Now these guys both got the DRS slots open. Hofnagel went into the pits to the inside. Oh, and Francis McGinn is able to hold him off just a little bit. But now Van Gelder. Oh, and he moves to the outside. Oh, they bang wheels. They're banging wheels, stuffing each other. Little bump and grind, a little bit of shoulder checking. Oh, and around the outside, Francis is going to try to make that outside line work again, but Nick's got it. Gets to the top of the hill first, and now he's got the more preferred line hanging in the next corner. Francis McGinn still there. And another lockup by Francis McGinn. I don't know if he needs to dial back the brake pressure, change the balance, or if he's just trying to go into the corners way too deep. And now look at this, Vasilios Beliciotis, who started dead last because of his qualifying crash, is now working his way up in the 3rd. He's on the soft tires. Now, Vasilios is Francis' teammate. Now, here in SRL, I mean, even though you are teammates, we don't see a lot of team orders. We don't see a lot of team work, for that matter, as we see Francis knock up again. But I wonder if, or a 3-second time penalty from again, that's going to cost him, but I wonder if Vasilios has any intentions of trying to help Francis win this championship, or if Vasilios is just going to be out for himself to try and get the win. And again, side by side to the inside, Francis is going to have him push him wide. Oh, and he pushes him very wide. Gives up the position. Tries to get a crossover move. Tries to get the power down, but he's not there. And here comes Vasilios now. What is Vasilios' plan here? Does he help his teammate try and win that championship, or does he go for the win for himself? Force India as a team locked up the team championship, constructors championship, long ago in this season. Nobody's even remotely close to catching those two in the points as far as the constructors go. But what does Vasilios do for his teammate? Slots open. Vasilios tries to move to the inside. He's going to get him. Woo, that was close. Basilius thought he was going to try a 2-for-1, but he didn't make it work. But he does take the position as Tim Hoffnagel goes 109.988. Meanwhile, Francis is trying to come back on his teammate. Basilius is on those soft tires. They're going to last a little bit longer. I would say those super softs are probably starting to wear out at this point. Softs got a few more laps in them. These top three have not pitted yet. And the condition of Francis's tires has to be dreadful for the front. You see the car starting to twitch a lot. There's a little bit of grip coming around these corners. He's locking up the front tires a lot. Again, on the right front, he's done that almost every lap so far since lap 6. Meanwhile, Basilios is right behind Nick Van Gelder. Almost gives him the chrome horn. And we do have Sam Van Elden with us on the live chat. Maybe he can explain to us what happened to him during qualifying. Looks like Francis is finally going to hit the pits along with Sandro Julius. Meanwhile, the battle at the front continues. Van Gelder trying to hang on. Basilios Beliciotis. Now we've got a lot of guys. Oh no, and Tim Hoffnagel's retired from the session. What has happened to Tim? Looks like Tim Hoffnagel must have crashed on the front stretch. And meanwhile, Basilios has lost a bunch of time. Oh, it's a virtual safety car because of Hoffnagel's crash. Unbelievable. So Tim Hoffnagel, who just ran the fastest lap on lap 12, was having himself a really good race, started in second spot. Unfortunately, it looks like he was pushing it a little too hard, must have lost the car on the front stretch and crashed himself out. So now we've got a virtual safety car. 3-second time penalty for Sam Brandt. And now it looks like the virtual safety car is ending. Back on the throttle. Looks like Van Gelder is going to dive into the pits. He's going to hand the lead over to Basilios Beliciotis. Dion Stahl, 10-second time penalty for corner cutting. I don't know what Dion did. Lucky for him, he's currently running in 10th position, so he's not going to lose any more positions because the cars behind him are all DNF, with the exception of Sam Van Elven, which is a DNS, did not start. Cameron Weston Edwards, meantime, moves into third. This is Sam Brandt, him and him going back and forth here. Again, has come out of the pits in 5th. Van Gelder has come out of the pits in 6th. So good run so far for Louis Quinlan since starting in the back of the field. He was 12th. He qualified. Well, he didn't qualify because he had a qualifying bin. He started 12th. Basilius started 13th. Coincidentally, the guys that started 12th and 13th are both running 1 and 2. So it looks like Quinlan's on a very interesting strategy running from mediums. And we know Billy's doing a very long stint on those softs. So really interesting race for these two. Work themselves into the top 2 spots. Cars are a little spread out now from the pit sequence, so we'll try and reset the grid here for you. Basilios Beliciotis out in front. Louis Quinlan, 7.5 seconds back, is going in second. Cameron Weston Edwards has managed to work his way into third. Sam Brandt running a really solid 4th so far. Francis McGinn up to 5th. Nick Van Gelder is in 6th. Sandro Julius is in 7th. Reese March is 8th. Dion Stahl, who had the 10-second time penalty, is running 9th. And Ivan Brito rounds out your top 10 positions of the day. Now, that being said, not everybody's made a pit stop. You see there, the only 3 drivers not to make a pit stop, Basilios, Louis Quinlan, and Sam Brandt. Now, the first driver that has made a pit stop is Cameron Weston Edwards. So he's in the catbird seat right now because once Basilios and Louis pit, that's going to hand the lead over to Cameron Weston Edwards. So Edwards running a pretty interesting race strategy to get himself in that position. Meanwhile, Francis now is caught in the back end of Sam Brandt, who we just talked about hasn't pitted. And Tim Hoffnagel has officially left the session after his crash, unfortunately. Francis is going to pick up the 4th spot. So McGinn now in 4th, pulling away from Sam Brandt. Next on the hit list would be Cameron Weston Edwards, who is 3.5 seconds almost out in front of Francis McGinn, but McGinn on a little bit fresher tires. Edwards now closing that gap to Louis Quinlan. Look out the back of Quinlan's car. He is finally going to head into the pits. So this is what we were talking about. Vasilios is in the pits as well. So this is going to hand the lead over to Cameron Weston Edwards. And Edwards is on softs. So there's McGinn, 3.5 seconds back. Nick Van Gelder moves into 3rd. Vasilios is going to come out 4th. He's only about a second off of Nick Van Gelder, so Van Gelder's going to have his work cut out for him. It looks like Van Gelder is on the mediums. So, a couple of different ditches and pit strategies. We see Cameron Weston Edwards, 9 laps on his soft, so he's probably going to have to pit again. Francis has got 4 laps on his mediums. He'll probably try and run them to the end of the race. Louis Quinlan's coming out on softs. He ran mediums to start this race, so he's going to try and run softer tires towards the end for faster lap time, so that may garner him another position or 2. So I got a feeling some of these guys are either going to try and stretch these softs, which Cam's already got 10 laps on his softs, so that'd be a very long stretch, and he picks up a 3-second time penalty. And again, the cars are spread out now. Everybody's made their official first stop. Oh my goodness, 10-second time penalty for Ivan Brito corner cutting. That's the second time penalty we've seen like that. Dion Stahl picked up the first one, 10 seconds, and now Ivan Brito. Those two coincidentally running 9th and 10th, so... And a 3-second time penalty for Vasilios now. So time penalties are going to be a factor in today's race. So we'll reset the grid for you again now that everybody's made their pit stops. You see Cameron Weston Edwards is your leader out in front on the soft tires. Francis McGinn currently running in 2nd. He has got Nick Van Gelder behind him in 3rd. Behind him is Vasilios Belisiotis running in 4th. Sandro Dulius quietly running in 5th. Louis Quinlan running a really solid race right now into the 6th spot. Reese Marks currently running in 7th. Outdoing his teammate Sam Brandt, the veteran Haas driver, in 8th, and Dion Stahl is currently running 9th, and rounding out your 10 drivers for today is Ivan Brito running in 10th. So at least everybody will pick up points at this point, with the exception of... Oh my goodness, and what was that? Ivan Brito just lost the car. I don't know if that was intentional or if he was having some issues, but Ivan Brito is done for the day. Unbelievable. And you see that corner there, that right front locked up again on Francis McGinn's car. He seems to do that just about every corner, just about every lap at that particular corner. Meanwhile, Vasilios has caught the back end of Nick Van Gelder to the inside, and Vasilios is going to get around Van Gelder relatively easily. Can Van Gelder do a switchback get the crossover move going. And he's not able to make it work. He's going to have the DRS advantage going down the backstretch here. Oh, and he's all the way down to the grass. Oh, my goodness, what a move by Van Gelder. He tries to get to the inside of Vasilios. And he manages to hang on to the position. Unbelievable, all the way down to the grass. That was very daring, very aggressive. Nick has been far more aggressive today than I thought he should be and thought he would be. Nick trying to get that power down. You see the cars in the background there. That's a great shot. Dion Stahl with another time penalty. Vasilios is all over the gearbox of Nick Van Gelder's Red Bull. There's no way Van Gelder's going to be able to keep Vasilios behind him. Oh, and Vasilios to the inside, runs down and close to the wall, side by side. The only thing Van Gelder can do is try and run a different line to get that crossover move to work. Now he's all over the gearbox of Vasilios. Can't get the car to stick. Looks like he got a little bit of aero wash on the front wing and lost it. Car pushed wide just a little bit. Now Vasilios got the DRS slot open again. And Vasilios snakes down the backstretch, trying to break up. Trying to break up that draft if he can. Working lap 21 of 36. Meanwhile, Cameron Weston Edwards is still out in front. Francis McGinn has that lead cut down, though, to 2 seconds. It was 3.3 a couple laps ago as we continue to watch this battle rage on. Closest battle on track. And it looks like McGinn lost just a little bit more time there, a couple more car lengths. I want to know if anybody gambles for another set of tires to make it a two-stop strategy. Unfortunately, Nick Van Gelder's got no help right now as far as the teammate goes. His teammate is usually Jurgen Marusic. He hasn't been able to race the past couple of weeks due to personal matters. Life happens, other obligations. Louis Quinlan picks up a 3-second time penalty. So I'm sure Nick, though, would love to have yours help right now. And it looks like Vasilios hasn't necessarily gapped Van Gelder. The gap now is pretty much half a second, and that's where it's staying. But it looks like they're coming up with some lap cars. Actually, that might be Francis McGinn that they're coming up on. Yeah, that is Francis McGinn. And there's Cameron Weston Edwards. Francis, he's had that lead cut back to 2 seconds. Oh, and a 3-second time penalty for Cameron Weston Edwards. Cut that corner just a little too tight. That's disappointing. He's been having such a good run. I'm pretty sure everybody at this point has a time penalty there. Nick Van Gelder, though, we're going to pick him back up. So he's got the DRS slot open on his Red Bull, trying to get past Vasilios. But if the race ended right now, Van Gelder would be your champion. The laps are winding down. However, the top 4 cars are starting to get closer and closer together. Vasilios and Nick have the time cut down to 2 seconds to Francis McGinn. And Louis Quinlan is actually starting to close the gap into Sandro Dulius as Sam Brandt picks up another 3-second time penalty. So the top 6 cars, we're still going to see... Oh, no, look at Cameron Edwards into the pits. So he is going to gamble for a 2-stop strategy. I was wondering if anybody would do it. Cam dives in. That's going to hand the lead over to Francis McGinn. Vasilios Belasiotis will be second. Nick Van Gelder is third. And now, this is the battle of the year right here. This is Nick Van Gelder all by his lonesome, taking on the Force India powerhouse of Francis McGinn and Vasilios Belasiotis. And Force India has had more 1-2 finishes this year than any other team. They've had more podium finishes as a team than anybody else. I would have to check the records, but I would imagine that they're pretty close to either setting the record or they've already set the record in the current points format for points in a season for a constructor. So Cameron Weston Edwards has come back out of the pits in 6th. He's on a fresh set of softs. He's got 11 laps to go. He's about 7 seconds behind Louis Quinlan and Sandro Dulius. Be interesting to see what kind of lap times Cameron can set. And Vasilios is starting to work on the backside of his teammate. No love lost here between these two. These two went blow for blow, corner for corner at Paul Ricard earlier this year for the French Grand Prix. It was an amazing race to watch. If you're going to watch one of the races this year, it should definitely be this one, and it should definitely be that one. It was an unbelievable race. These two went blow for blow, turn for turn, round for round, lap after lap. There's no love lost between these two. They understand that they're on the same team, but Vasilios is out to win a race. McGinn is out to win a championship. Neither one of them is going to want to give an inch. And while these two battle it out, Van Gelder has closed that gap. 3-car battle for the lead and a 2-car battle for the championship. 10 laps to go in what has been a very exciting season and what has been a very exciting race so far. And Cameron Weston Edwards was a 1:09.547, which is good news for Nick Van Gelder because that's one less point Francis McGinn is going to have at the end of this race. Oh, and look at that move by Vasilios. That was a very quick decision. That was a good move and another big lockup on Francis at that corner. That particular corner, that right front has got to be destroyed. And Francis is doing everything he can to keep Vasilios behind him. Meanwhile, Nick Van Gelder is sitting there in the trenches waiting to pounce if something happens between these two Force India drivers. DRS slot open. Vasilios is almost at the gearbox of Francis McGinn. McGinn's going to try and take away the inside line. He's going to make Vasilios go around the outside, but that's going to set him up for the next corner. He pushes him wide. Vasilios keeps it inbounds. Sandre Sauerhoek chiming in on the live chat, cheering on Francis McGinn. Meanwhile, Nick Van Gelder's got his DRS slot open. The two Force Indias going side by side once again. Vasilios trying to go around the outside. Francis pushes him wide. Into the grass goes Vasilios. As I said, no love lost between these two Force India drivers. One fighting for a championship, the other one fighting for a win as he dives to the inside, gets underneath of him. Francis is still there. And Francis is able to hold the position. Oh, here comes Van Gelder, trying to get the power down. The back end kicks out just a little bit. Meanwhile, Vasilios dives to the inside as Francis locks up the right front. Crossover move by Francis back to the outside. Oh no, and they touch! Francis almost lost the back end of the car. Van Gelder now. You can throw a blanket over the top 3 cars. In the midst of this, Sandro Dulius has lost the 4th position to Louis Quinlan, and he's losing ground to Cameron Weston Edwards. Oh, and these two are going back and forth again to the inside. Vasilios, he's going to try and push Francis wide. Francis is the more preferred line for the next corner. Here comes Van Gelder. DRS slots open for Vasilios and Nick Van Gelder, and you can see Sandro has gotten back by Louis Quinlan, and those two are actually closing the gap to this battle here. Vasilios is going to try and go to the outside this time. Gets a good run to the top of the hill. Big lockup on the right front from Francis McGinn. He has done that so many times. The tire's got to have a huge flat spot in it. Working lap 28 of 36, and again a lockup on the right front. And I'm starting to think tire wear may become an issue for Francis McGinn. And we've got Luke Smith joining us today as well in the live chat. Always good to hear from our buddy Luke, all the way from Australia. Raced in IRL earlier this year, had a couple of pole positions, had a miserable F1 2018 campaign there between IRL and SRL. Certainly wish him the best of luck for F1 2019. He's a very quick driver. Meanwhile, we continue to watch this battle rage on. And meanwhile, Louis Quinlan has gotten around Sandro Dulius again for the 4th spot. If the race ended right now, everything that Francis is doing would be all for naught. He would still lose the championship battle to Nick Van Gelder. Big lockup on the right front. Oh, and to the inside goes Vasilios again. Side by side coming out of the corner. Van Gelder tries to get the power down. The back end kicks out. Vasilios runs wide. Ooh, and he drifts the car out. Vasilios' back end kicks out way wide. Meanwhile, Sandro Dulius has gotten back around Louis Quinlan. I wish we could watch that battle as well, because those two have gone back and forth a number of times now. But the battle for the lead and the championship's a little bit more important right now, as you see Louis Quinlan gets by Sandro once more. Side by side they go to the next corner and they touch again. Vasilios wants that position bad. He has not given up. He has been relentless in his pursuit of his teammate Francis McGinn. McGinn doing everything he can to keep Vasilios back there. But I gotta say right now, with the tire wear and the lockups that's going on with Francis' car, he is holding up these two drivers. Vasilios is definitely the faster of the two Force Indias. That is bad news for him. Oh, look at this to the inside. They rub wheels again. Nick Van Gelder's just kind of sitting there biding his time, waiting for something to happen, looking for a gap that he could shoot. Oh, and look at that little bump. Tries to give him a bump and run. He gets to the inside. That is a classic NASCAR bump and run. To the inside goes Vasilios. All the way down to the wall. He's got the inside line heading into the end of the turn 1. Francis dives under to the inside. It looks like they're going to make contact. These two are not giving up. Van Gelder's got to be careful. He doesn't want to get caught up in their melee. To the inside. Oh no, and now Van Gelder touches Francis's car. 3 wide. Oh no, and he lost a bit of wing. Not a good sign for Nick Van Gelder. I saw the end plate fly off. I'm sure it was off of Van Gelder's car. That is going to cost him downforce. Louis Quinlan and Sandro Dulius are in hot pursuit of this battle. They have caught these 3 cars. Francis now has lost the top spot to his teammate Vasilios. Meanwhile, Van Gelder now is going to have his work cut out for him, unfortunately, with low downforce on the front end of the car. This is going to be intense coming down to the wire. McGinn has got bad front tires. Van Gelder has got a bad front wing. And you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 now. They've all closed up here at the closing laps. 5 laps to go. Everything's up for grabs between these 6 drivers. Unbelievable race. And here goes Francis McGinn. He is not done trying to get that win. Goes to the outside. Going to try and go the long way around. Crossover move. Can't make it work. He's not close enough. And now Louis Quinlan is all over the back of Nick Van Gelder. Quinlan, who has had a rough season between IRL and SRL with so many DNFs this year. A podium finish for him would be a Cinderella story as he tries to get to the inside. Van Gelder squeezes him. Dulius goes to the back, to the outside of Louis Quinlan. Meanwhile, Francis goes diving in, can't make it work side by side with his teammate. Sandro gets around Louis Quinlan coming to the top of the hill, but here comes Cameron Weston Edwards. Dive bombs Louis Quinlan into that corner. And now Van Gelder has lost a little bit of time to the two Force Indians as these two have been able to pull away. Van Gelder struggling with the lack of downforce in the front of the car. Here comes Sandro. Lap 32 of 36. This is intense. Meanwhile, Francis McGinn again trying to get to the back to the top spot. He's going to push his teammate wide. Vasilios is going to push back. There it is. I knew that was coming, and around goes Francis. And he is going to lose a couple of spots. Oh my goodness, and he gets hit hard. Nick Van Gelder to the top spot. Sandro Dulius to the inside of Vasilios Belasiotis. 5-second stop and go penalty for Cameron Weston Edwards, gained one spot. I'm going to have to say the stewards are probably going to review that. They're going to take that back because I'm sure that was in part due to that collision with Francis McGinn, Vasilios Belasiotis. Sandro now running in second. Vasilios dives to the inside. Sandro can't hold him back. Louis Quinlan is still running in fourth. A great day for him. Francis McGinn manages to get around Cameron Weston Edwards. Looks like Edwards may have given that spot back. Lap 33 of 36 in what has been a very intense season and a very intense race, and it's not quite done yet. Vasilios to the inside isn't close enough to make a move. DRS slot open. Van Gelder going to try and hold him back, but Vasilios to the inside. He's not going to be able to. He tries to get back, a crossover move. Oh, they rub wheels just a little bit. Oh, and Vasilios is going to rub back. Van Gelder dives to the inside, not going to be close enough to make that work. Here comes Sandro Dulius. Meanwhile, Francis McGinn is in fifth spot, closing in on Louis Quinlan. And Reese March has picked up a 3-second time penalty. And I see Ward has asked if Francis and Billy both have penalties. That would be Francis McGinn, Vasilios Belasiotis. And I don't know. I'm pretty sure that they both have a penalty apiece. I can't remember if they were 3 or 5-second penalties. There's also been a couple of 10-second penalties divvied out today. That was Dion Stahl and Ivan Brito. It'll be interesting to see how this is classified at the end of this race. Nick Van Gelder goes very wide heading into turn one. Over breaks himself. He's going to have to cut the chicane. That was very costly. Surprisingly, I'm sure the game gave him a warning but did not give him a penalty as he tries to get to the inside, working lap 35 and 36. Francis McGinn now is in the fourth spot. Dulius all over the back of Nick Van Gelder. Dulius doesn't look like he's trying to make a move just yet. He's going to have the DRS advantage. Van Gelder is now a second off of Vasilios Belasiotis. Final lap of the season. Vasilios Belasiotis out in front. Nick Van Gelder currently in second. And Francis McGinn now just off of Sandro Dulius. Dulius now with the DRS slot open. He's all over the back of Van Gelder. Is he going to try and make a move? To the inside. Look at this. Dulius is going to have a run at him. Van Gelder tries to squeeze him to the inside, and it looks like Dulius doesn't want to lock up the front wheels and bang into him. Van Gelder now to the outside. This is it. Last run to the finish. Vasilios Belasiotis is going to come across the line first. Vasilios is going to pick up another win for Force India. Sandro Julius is going to come home, well, because of time penalties. Nick Van Gelder gets second, even though he comes across the line third. Sandro Julius is going to follow third. Francis McGinn is fourth. Louis Quinlan with a great run today in fifth. Sam Brandt going to round out sixth. Job done for Nick Van Gelder. We see Sam Brandt come across the line. Cameron Weston Edwards, his race kind of fell apart there towards the end. He is going to jump to sixth there because of the time penalties. Deion Saul, Ivan Breeder are going to come home in eighth and ninth. But Nick Van Gelder, job done, hard fought, well-deserved championship for F1 2018 on the PS4 platform. And you see he's happy about that for SRL. And that is an unbelievable race for Van Gelder. Now you see Vasilios there at the top of the podium, racing for pride. He did not want to give up that win. There may be some choice words by his teammate Francis McGinn at the end of this round and the end of this season. Sandro picks up another well-deserved podium finish this year. This has been one of Sandro's best seasons. And Nick Van Gelder coming home with the championship. We're going to try and get him up here in the booth, see if we can get an interview with these guys. But just to round out the finishing order here, you've got Vasilios Belasiotis, who did have a time penalty. Nick Van Gelder comes home second. Sandro Julius third. Francis McGinn is fourth. Louis Quinlan, good, hard-fought fifth position. Cameron Weston Edwards comes home sixth. Sam Brandt is seventh. Reese March eighth. Deion Stoll is ninth. Ivan Brito is 10th. And then Tim Hofnagel and Koens Van Houten both had DNFs. Sam Van Elven, unfortunately, did not start the race. So he is done. Now stand by. I'm going to try and get Nick Van Gelder into the booth with me. And we're going to see if we can get Nick Van Gelder in here to talk to us about this unbelievable championship that he's had. Meanwhile, be sure to check us out online. The link to the website is below in the YouTube description. Be sure to like and comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Nick Van Gelder, F1 2018 on the PS4 platform, SRL champion. What a hard-fought race. How does it feel?
Oh man, that's incredible. I mean, it was such an intense race. Even though I was very safe for the championship in terms of having to, finish fifth if Francis wins, and with Francis not being able to win at the end of the race, but just the constant battling and the way this entire season has gone, it's such a big relief to cross the line and to have it in the bag. And I thought I had a chance of winning the race because Vasilios and Francis both had time penalties. So I was trying to save fuel behind them in the slipstream, and then when I decided okay, now I want to attack and get in front, I damaged my wing a little bit because I hit the back of Francis' car. So I was damaged for the last couple of laps in the race. And so it was very difficult to stick with Billy, and especially in the final lap, I was very low on fuel, and I actually ran out just before the line. So I missed the victory by a few tenths, but who cares? I mean, I couldn't care less. The championship is in the bag, and congrats to Vasilios for winning the race, and also to Francis for putting up an amazing season. He's been really quick this year, and we both would have deserved to get this championship. But in the lead up to this race, I was so focused during the race, but also so nervous in the lead up to the race and before the race. And to come away with the championship is just such a big relief, and it's great. And thanks for having me here on the interview as well. But and thanks
Absolutely.
for commentating as well. I'm really happy you were able to attend this final race.
I didn't want to miss the championship round.
But, yeah, that's great, man. It was probably quite an exciting race to commentate and to watch as well, because there was so much battles going on.
There was a lot of drama going on, and part of that drama, as you said, was when you lost your front wing. Now,
Yeah.
Watching that, you lost a lot of ground to Facilios, and you had Sandro all over the back of you. Do you feel like Sandro was giving you a little bit of a reprieve there and letting you take that position? Because it didn't look like he was trying to fight you too hard for that second spot.
Yeah, I don't know. I was really saving fuel, so indeed I wasn't. I was very far off the pace on the final lap, and Sandro indeed was very. He wasn't very aggressive by me, and I don't know if it was because he knew he had a penalty and I didn't, or if he was just a bit lenient by not wanting to interfere with the championship. But it wouldn't really have made a difference because even if I would have finished third or fourth or fifth, I would have still got the championship. Because I think Francis finished in fourth, so even if I wouldn't have scored points or DNF'd out of the race, I would have still been champion. So because the gap was 18 points before this race, so it wouldn't have really changed things. But I don't know, maybe he did uh, take a bit of a sidestep and not really attacking me, but maybe he didn't. I don't know. But if he does, then I'm of course grateful for that. But yeah, it would really change the result. Also because he had penalties or one penalty, I think.
So F1 2018 champion, do you go to back it up again next year? You're going to be back to SRL for season 5?
I'm definitely gonna be back on track for season 5, but I think this might have been my only chance to get the championship because I think I've been very lucky this year and also quite consistent as well. Lucky with crashes and did not start from Francis and Facilio, so I think this might have been my only chance to get the championship win. That's why I also was so desperate to get it and why I was so nervous before this race because I really felt like this was my only chance. And if I would have lost this championship, it would have really felt like I lost it because I had an advantage coming into the race. So the pressure was on, but I'm not sure if I can fight for the championship again next season. Maybe I will, maybe I won't, but we'll wait and see. Really looking forward to season 5, of course, with F1 2019. Going to be staying in Red Bull with you as well. We will hopefully be able to attend a few more races, but yeah, I'll definitely be back on track next year, and I'm really looking forward to it. And it's great to end this season with taking the championship win. And to be honest, I still can't believe it. And even during this race, like when I was behind Billy and Francis fighting it out, I was like, oh yeah, please keep battling each other because I was able to stick with them and save fuel on the process. And then when I think Billy and Francis both made contact, Francis actually spun and I overtook both of them, and suddenly I was in the lead. Well, just a few seconds before I was hanging on by my fingernails. I was like, what has just happened? How have I just gone back into the lead again? That was just, I was in shock for for some parts of this race, and it was very intense. And yeah, like I said, such a big relief to finally have it in the bag after
It was
such a long
definitely intense
season.
for
And
us up here in the booth as well, and I'm sure for anybody
yeah,
that was watching. And you did speak of consistency this year, and just as a quick note, you were the only driver today that did not have a time penalty at all. So that was
oh
another
okay,
key
yeah,
factor. Obviously, with Sandro finishing in front of you, but you came home third, but you get second because of the time penalty. So
yeah.
consistency has definitely been key this year. So there you have it, everybody. Congratulations to Nick Van Gelder, your F1 2018 SRL champion. And while there are
Thank you
many
very
SRL
much.
leagues, there's only one Sandro Racing League. And be sure to check us out more online. The link to the website is in the description below. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment to the YouTube channel and check us out online. We're going to take a break for the summer. We'll be back with F1 2019 in September. And there's always the ever looming possibility of the IMSA/WEC for PC Cars 2, Project Cars 2. So we'll see if that ever gets underway as well. So that's it from us here at SRL. Congratulations again to Nick. And
Thank
we'll
you very
see you
much.
guys at F1 2019.